Hi, I've been gifted some apples from a colleague at work, so I thought I would try some experimental cooking. So we have 8 reasonable size apples, and after they've been washed, we're going to peel them and cut them up. As if by magic, there they are, all nice and clean. And now we peel them. I'm using a vegetable peeler, but you could easily do it with a knife if you were careful. Make sure you get any bad bits off. Peel them all, and there they are. Using a very large, or how the Cornish say, girt big, knife. Mind your fingers. You see, mind your fingers. Quarter them, and then using a smaller knife, core the middles out. It's making plenty of compost for the compost bin. At this point, also cut off any ends where you missed with your vegetable peeler, which I did, or any bits that my grandma would call poor, meaning gone brown or slightly wormy. Hopefully you'll not find any worms in them. These were picked fresh the day I received them. Here they are, all quartered, cored and peeled. Next, we're going to take each of the quarters and cut them into pieces, sometimes into 2, sometimes into 4, occasionally into 5, depending on the size of the bits. Put them into a big saucepan and add whatever spice you feel so inclined. Today I'm using ginger, and I have no idea how much to put in, so just sprinkle some in and hope for the best. We're going for the rustic approach. And the last of my brown sugar. We'll just upend the box and pour it in. Yeah, like that. Mix it all up, and the tiniest little drop of water, because we don't want it to be really soggy, but we don't want it to burn either. So that's what it looks like. Put it on a medium-ish and stir. Cook about 20 to 25 minutes. Stir occasionally. Go off, make yourself a cup of coffee. Come back in between and just give it a little stir. We're looking for a syrupy-like substance on the bottom, but not burnt to a crisp. Remember, you haven't got much liquid in there. And when you think it's soft enough, I did have to resort to a potato masher, I will confess. Get out your puff pastry. I bought some prefabbed stuff, but you could easily make it yourself if you wanted short crust pastry, or if you are feeling energetic, make your own puff pastry, but it is a complicated process. This comes with convenient backing paper to help you roll. And in a minute you'll see why that's useful. There you go, nice and flat. Don't need to do any rolling with a rolling pin. And now we're going to put on the apples. Oh yes, make sure we flatten it down, make sure it's nice. I also use this method for making pizza wheels with pepperoni and cheese and some tomato puree. And I nearly always forget and make it straight from the fridge, and it cracks. So actually what I've learnt doing this exercise is that it is better at room temperature. So plop a couple of spoonfuls of the apple mixture. There was plenty of apple mixture left over. Blob it about a bit. We're definitely going for the rustic approach today. Nobody from Bake Off is going to come calling at my house, but it will taste nice. And that's all I care about really, is that it tastes nice. So a little while ago, I stewed some of my rhubarb and put it in the freezer. This is a defrosted batch. We're just going to blob a layer across the top of the apples. It is very, very wet, so I'm trying to strain the liquid as I'm taking it out of the bag. I thought I'd done a reasonable job, but in a minute you'll see why that might not have been the case. There we go. As you can see, quite blobby. The rest of that rhubarb went back in the pan with the apples, and I'll make some sort of crumble with it. So we're going to roll this up and put it on a baking tray, using the paper to help you, because you're going to need the force of pulling the paper one way and rolling the pastry the other, and then get tied up in it and make a great big mess. And by now the liquid is also squirting out the sides. You might not be able to see that. Take my word for it. The pastry is now stuck to this paper, making a right mess. It's not going to be pretty. The end result of this might taste nice, but it's not going to be pretty. We're not going to win any beauty awards for it. Give it a bit of a twist and hope for the best. Clear up your work surface while the oven warms up, and then pop it in the oven. You could brush with egg if you felt so inclined, if they were going to be beautiful things. But no, mine were going to have soggy bottoms. I swapped baking trays halfway through to try and avoid the liquid pouring out the bottom. I wasn't overly successful with that. In an ideal world, I would have rolled it up and cut it into sections and then baked each section, which is what I do with the pizza ones. But it was too soggy, so it just went in as one big lump. As you can see, let's test it. Hot, so difficult, but very yummy. So how do you like them apples?